At 82, I've learned a lot about life, but if there's one decision I deeply regret, it's moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right choice. My family encouraged it, promising I'd have all the care and comfort I needed. I believed them, but once I got there, I realized the reality was nothing like what I had imagined. I know many of you might be considering this option, whether for yourself or a loved one. Maybe you think it's the safest decision, or perhaps you've been told it will make life easier. But before you take that step, I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in. Because the truth is, life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience. It changes everything. And once you go in, getting out isn't as simple as you might think. Stay with me until the end. Some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone considering a nursing home, this might be exactly what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. Regret number 1, losing my independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room, the set meal times, or even the unfamiliar faces. It was realizing that I had lost control over my own life. Before I moved in, I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a walk whenever I wanted, cook my own meals, or sit quietly in my favorite chair with a book. But once I got to the nursing home, I quickly realized that my time was no longer my own. Everything ran on a schedule that wasn't mine. Breakfast was at a set time, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights out happened at a certain hour, whether I was ready for bed or not. Want to take a walk outside? You might need permission, and you'll probably have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Simple decisions like what to eat or what to wear started feeling like privileges instead of basic choices. I remember my first week there. Waking up in a bed that didn't feel like mine, I reached for the book I had been reading at home. But when I looked around, it hit me. This wasn't my home. My books, my favorite chair, the little comforts I had spent years collecting, gone. In their place were sterile walls, a bed I didn't choose, and a feeling I couldn't shake. The hardest part? Realizing that once you give up your independence, getting it back is almost impossible. You adapt because you have to. You stop arguing when they tell you what's for dinner. You stop asking if you can go for a walk whenever you want. You learn to fit into their system, but in the process, you start losing yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. Regret number 2, feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside keeps moving, without you. When I first arrived, my family reassured me that they would visit often, and in the beginning, they did. My daughter came by once a week. My grandchildren visited on weekends. For a little while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as the months went by, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren got busy with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come, but somehow plans always change at the last minute. And suddenly, I found myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life just got in the way. When you're not around every day, it's easy for people to assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, that you don't need as much attention. But the truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget just how much you still need them. I remember one evening, sitting in my room holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down, and that's when it hit me. This was my life now. Watching the days go by, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easier than you think to become out of mind. Regret number 3, losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities. I had routines, hobbies, and a reason to get up in the morning. Even small things, Watering the plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space gave me a sense of purpose. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were made for me. Cleaning was done by someone else. The plants? They weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities. Just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out, with nothing to do but wait. I saw it happen to others too. People who had once been full of energy now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves, but nothing really changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret number 4, a decline in health faster than expected. Before moving into a nursing home, I was in relatively good shape for my age. While I wasn't running marathons, I was still capable of handling daily tasks, taking walks, preparing my own meals, and maintaining small routines that kept me active, like grocery shopping and stretching in the mornings. However, everything changed after I moved in. At first, it felt like I was simply taking a break. Meals were delivered to me, and I no longer needed to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I required assistance, all I had to do was push a button, and help was readily available. What I didn't realize was that by doing less, I was unintentionally weakening myself. I moved less, and soon my legs became stiff. I spent more time sitting, and before long, even getting up from a chair felt like a struggle. The muscles I had maintained for years started deteriorating faster than I ever imagined, and I wasn't alone. I saw others experience the same thing. People who arrived walking independently gradually became reliant on wheelchairs. Once self-sufficient individuals now required assistance for things they had always managed on their own. The more help we received, the more dependent we became. I remember Alice, my 81-year-old neighbor, who was full of energy when she first moved in. She took daily walks and insisted she wouldn't slow down just because of her age. But over time, I saw her movement decrease. First, she started using a walker, then a wheelchair. One day, she turned to me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." And that's exactly how it felt. When you stop using your body, you begin to lose it. And in a nursing home, where everything is designed for convenience, it's easy to forget that movement is about more than just comfort. It's essential for survival. Had I known how quickly I'd lose my strength, I would have made a greater effort to stay active, to push myself even when it wasn't easy. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you have the motivation to stay physically strong in an environment where everything is designed to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, regaining what you've lost is far more difficult than you think. Regret number 5, losing privacy and dignity. One thing I didn't fully anticipate before moving into a nursing home was how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. I could shut my bedroom door, enjoy solitude, and do things on my own terms. In a nursing home, however, privacy is a privilege, not a guarantee. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was always being watched. Staff members frequently entering my room, scheduled room checks, shared spaces where alone time was rare. Even basic activities like dressing or using the bathroom often required assistance. I understood they were doing their job, but accepting help for things I had always done independently was difficult. During my first week, I struggled with the realization that I had to ask permission for things I once did without thinking. Want to take a shower? You may have to wait until someone is available to assist. Need to use the restroom? Pressing the call button doesn't always mean immediate help. Not a fan of what's on the menu? Too bad, you have limited options. Then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone you didn't choose can be challenging. I was fortunate to have a kind roommate, but others weren't so lucky. Some dealt with noisy or unclean roommates, while others had roommates with cognitive impairments that made sleep difficult. No matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it never truly is. Losing dignity is painful, and I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to give up until I was already there. When people knock, but don't always wait for a response before entering. When you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person. When your daily schedule is dictated by someone else, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, consider this. Are you ready to give up the privacy and autonomy you've had your whole life? Because once it's gone, it's not easy to reclaim. Regret number 6, discovering that leaving is harder than expected. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought it was temporary. I planned to try it out, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But I underestimated how difficult it would be to leave once I was in. Initially, I believed that if it didn't work out, I could simply return home. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became challenging. My children had already made changes, selling items they thought I no longer needed, even considering renting out the property. When I mentioned going back, they hesitated. Are you sure you can manage alone? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you. And then there was my physical decline. After months of not cooking, cleaning, or walking much, I wasn't as strong as before. The independence I had once taken for granted had started to slip away, making the thought of returning home overwhelming. I met others who faced the same realization. They intended to stay temporarily, but soon found that leaving wasn't as simple as they had thought. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to adjust to life outside. Some people even lost the option to leave, whether because their home had been sold or their savings had been depleted by the cost of care. There was no turning back. That's what no one tells you. Moving in feels like a decision you can undo, but for many it's not. The nursing home becomes your whole world, and before you know it, the life you once had feels like a distant memory. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that leaving might not be as easy as you assume? Because once you settle in, the obstacles, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be harder to overcome than you expect. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly took away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home, explored more ways to get help without giving up my freedom, and made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.